Francisco, California, a momentous conference begins. Here, leaders of the United Nations, representing all but a fraction of the Earth's population, are laying the foundations of international security in the post-war world.
Welcome to the third of our 3 videos produced by the United Nations Association Marin County Chapter in partnership with the National Park Service and support from neighboring United Nations Association chapters. On June 26, 2020, we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. Due to COVID-19, we are bringing you the short video series in place of an in-person gathering. In this third installment, we reflect on this historical event of the signing of the original Charter of the United Nations. The mechanism for ensuring that another world war never occurs took the form of the United Nations as a global body 75 years ago.
I'm Mia Monroe, a National Park Service Ranger, and I've spent most of my career at Muir Woods, which has brought together some really important threads in my life. And one of those is the proud role that my family played during the formative days of the United Nations. Delegates from all over the world were meeting in San Francisco. Everyone was involved. My mother at 16 was one of the people running errands, but towards the end of the months of work that went into forming the United Nations, UC Press and my uncle Amadeo Tomasini were tapped to do something very, very special, which was to design and print the charter. And this summed up in the beautiful preamble the vision of the United Nations, and also in 188 pages what it set out to do.
All 193 countries of the United Nations, including thousands of everyday people, participated in the formation of the goals. The goals bring forward into the present day the vision and values of the founders of the United Nations and the quest for a new, fair, peaceful world sought by leaders in 1945. World War II had torn our world apart, and while no one person had the answer, leaders at the time recognized that our best chance was working together, globally, toward lasting peace.
I'm John Bodiger, John Roosevelt Bodiger, that middle name because my mother was the first child and only daughter of Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt, which makes them my grandparents. My mother and I lived in the White House during World War II. I was a child, and I lived with my grandmother during my undergraduate years at college. They would be absolutely delighted to know that there is a celebration in these beautiful woods of the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, which was really something that to which they, as much as anyone else in the world, helped give birth to.
On April 25, 1945, delegates from 50 countries began arriving in San Francisco for what was called the United Nations Conference on International Organization. The work to craft a charter for the first ever United Nations continued for 9 weeks. In the midst of that process, instead of a session of the conference being held in the Redwoods as was originally planned, the delegates visited Muir Woods in Marin County for a memorial to honor Roosevelt. Today, when you visit Cathedral Grove in Muir Woods, you can see the plaque dedicated to FDR's memory for his role in creating the United Nations and his shared vision for a better world. This year, we honor the work of President Roosevelt as well as the tireless work of Eleanor Roosevelt, who championed the cause of the United Nations for the remainder of her life, well after her husband's death. The walkers you see here are volunteers who showed up at Old Mill Park in Mill Valley on one morning to bring the Sustainable Development Goals to life. Can we embody the values of the founders of the United Nations by doing our part in our communities to end poverty and hunger, to ensure a quality education, to guarantee health and fairness for all, and to secure a healthy, sustainable environment? If you care about these issues, consider joining your local United Nations Association chapter. If you care about preserving open space and responsible stewarding of the environment, visit and support your local parks such as Muir Woods National Monument. If you care about world peace, remember that the lands we call the United States were once inhabited by a great diversity of tribes we collectively call Native North Americans, and that the economic success of the U.S. was built with the forced enslavement of thousands of human beings. On this day, June 26, 2020, we acknowledge both the wisdom and the folly of those who came before us, and we choose to build on their vision and work for a better world.